18 turns, almost every single one of them. A massive, massive challenge. 23 cars in our top GT3 class here at Suzuka and 8 GT4 runners. A host of new entries from the Japanese racing series. Porsche Team EBI brought their 991 and 2 more Lamborghini Huracans from Success Racing and Car Guy Racing, and particularly look out for number 390. Success Racing got right in among the mix this morning, but car number 23, one of 2 KCMG Nissan GTR Nismos, moved to the top of the charts right at the end this morning. It's looking a very good circuit for the 2 cars tucked in behind, the FFF Racing Lamborghinis, but it was that monster Nissan that went to the front. Eduardo Liberati was the driver who set that time. He is the driver who will be starting in session number 1. And if you're new to Blancpain GT Series qualifying, let me tell you how it worked out. 2 15-minute qualifying sessions. The first one will be started by the driver listed as their number 1 driver, and that will sort the grid for this afternoon's race. Qualifying session number 2 is where the number 2 driver in the team will set the qualifying positions for tomorrow's racing. More cars joining the back of the queue, the 2 Craft Bamboo Racing Porsches. Each of the races will be 1 hour long. The drivers will do a minimum of 25 minutes. The pit stop window is between minutes 25 and 35 in the 1 hour races. But right now it's the focus. Each driver has to do a minimum of 2 flying laps. That doesn't count the out lap, it doesn't count the in lap. But how low we will go, we will see. There was heavy rain yesterday evening. It blew all of the rubber off the circuit. We've had a Blancpain official practice session this morning for half an hour. Slightly curtailed, in fact. We had a car stuck off in the gravel between the 2 Degner curves. That was the number 7 Audi from Absolute Racing. Andrew Kim was the driver who went off. A few other drivers picked up punctures. Now, look at those flags waving above race control. Even the flagpoles are blowing. Conditions can change. We had the heavy rain last night, cloud this morning. It's sunny at the moment. The race this afternoon, just for reference, starts at 2:20. A wet race, not an impossibility. But right now, for qualifying, certainly we can be sure for the first 15 minutes at the very least that it will be dry. But look at the sky there. As we look back at the crossover part of the track, this shot just outside the hairpin, 2/3 the way around the lap. And that's the view down to the town of Suzuka, Yokkaichi in the far background, and if you could see, the sea is just beyond. Weather looks like it's going to be fine for qualifying at least, but rain this afternoon could well be a possibility. Look at the fantastic twists and turns. This is looking backwards down the track at 130R, such a fast corner. The very top of the S's there. When the drivers get through there, they start to pant and think, whoa, I've done the hardest part of the lap. But they haven't. They've still got the spoon curve at the far end, which is such a technical corner. 15 minutes of qualifying. All the GT3 cars encouraged out into the fast lane of the pits, waiting for the session to start at 9:55. 9:55 till 10:10, a 10-minute break. And the second driver will then take over for qualifying session 2, 10:20 to 10:35. So just to reiterate, we have 31 cars, that's 62 drivers, 18 of them from Japan. A great boost for the home race here. 23 cars in GT3, 8 in GT4. And in qualifying, there is absolutely no guarantee. We've had 4 races, 4 GT3 pole positions, 4 different drivers. Martin Kodrich in a Lamborghini, Josh Burden in an Audi took the 2 poles at Sepang. Then it was Group M Mercedes with Patrick Niederhauser and then Maximilian Bug taking the poles last time out at the Chang International Circuit. This circuit, the Suzuka circuit, could not be more different. Just remember, the driver at the front of the queue is Eduardo Liberati, the Italian racer, 2016 Asian GT champion. He knows this circuit very well, and that KCMG car finished 4th and then 3rd last time out. Sorry, 8th and then 3rd. The teammate was 6th and 4th. The teammate is Yukinori Taniguchi, and this weekend he's got a new teammate, Alexandra Imperatori, who also has raced a lot out in the Far East. A Swiss driver, very much with an Eastern flavour to him. He has taken over the 2nd seat in the other KCMG entry. That's the number 18 car, showing with Yuki Taniguchi. Audi Racing Championship regulars, regular championship challenges with that 86 Audi, but new on board this weekend, we had them here last year, is the Car Guy Racing Lamborghini. Limited track time this morning because Takeshi Kimura took to the area beyond the circuit. A little bit of damage, that's all been fixed, but what he needs is track time in his yellowy green Lamborghini. Lamborghinis look very, very good in free practice this morning. 3 of the top 4 cars were Lamborghinis with the FFF racing cars. Marco Mappelli, the fleeter of their drivers. But then right at the end, Edoardo Liberati, the car that's leading the train around this morning, the KCMG Nissan, went to the top. So as the Blancpain GT Series Asia continues to expand, running to absolutely the same format as the principal Blancpain GT Sprint Series in Europe. Quick-fire races, 1-hour races, 2 drivers. So these could be these 3 cars, the 23 Nissan, the 19 and the 63 Lamborghinis from FF Racing Team, could be right at the sharp end of the grid. They were the first 3 in free practice this morning, jockeying for position already. Driver at number 19 is Dennis Lind, the Danish racer, and he's just been such a star in Lamborghinis in recent seasons. Racing principally in the Super Trofeo, but increasingly spreading his wings in the Blancpain series. He was European Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion in 2016. There is the exit of Spoon Curve. You can see the drivers going right to the exit and more. Then this long, long straight. There's gradient change. Obviously the drivers at the moment just getting heat into their tyres. Boy, they're bunching up behind. You've got the 2 FF Racing Lamborghinis. One being passed by the number 3 Audi, which is in the hands of by Martin Rump, the Estonian driver for Absolute Racing. Number 5 in behind. This weekend we've got Sean Thong back on board, joining Alex Jung. He was last year's GT3 Silver Cup champion in Blancpain Series Asia. Now, the fiddly Casio triangle. It's all about the speed onto the start-finish straight for the start of their first flying lap. Edoardo Liberati is first across the line. Behind him, the number 63 entry with Hiroshi Hamaguchi, second in line. Third down the hill, Dennis Lind. So, round turns 1 and 2. They then go into the S's, and this is where it starts to get technical. Up the hill they come. Here come the S's. They look slightly sloping. Oh, rather tail-happy from Dennis Lind in the number 3 Audi. But it's really quite a climb. I'll challenge you to walk it. It's much tighter than it looks. Liberati getting oversteer there. A lot of understeering. He kicked the tail around and oversteer. He's got it through. Has to do a minimum of 2 flying laps. It's a really, really quick-fire session. No mistakes. Through Tegner 1, through Tegner 2. It was a car off in the gravel in between that brought a red flag out in official practice this morning. No such problems. The advantage of getting to pit exit first means that number 23, Edoardo Liberati, can concentrate on what he needs to do. No other cars near him. Once Hamaguchi dropped back a little bit in the 19 Lamborghini, it left him free, untroubled, to press on. Three-quarters the way around the lap. Here is where the track goes from turning right to turning left, is the Spoon Curve. You don't want too much curve. That's fine on the entry. Now, exit of corner, how much curve is he going to take? Well, he didn't want to be quite that wide, but he kept it straight. That is the good thing. The 999 Group M racing car, Marcus Pommer at the wheel. He's sharing with the driver who's taken a pole, Patrick Niederhauser. Lights flashing from Liberati. Some of the back runners may be out just ahead of him now. In fact, it is the 999 car that is in front of him. It's in the same class, though. Marcus Pommer shouldn't interrupt him because the Casio Triangle is the penultimate corner. So what sort of time is this going to be? A 2-minute 3-second lap, a 2-minute 2. Fresh rubber undoubtedly put on the car. Should be quicker than this morning. So Liberati 2:03.299 seconds. Next driver shouldn't be as fast. That's Hamaguchi. No, it's now Sean Thong in the number 5 Audi, and then the 888 Mercedes, Alexander Matschel. I'll tell you about his teammate a little bit later. He has just gone into 3rd place. This is the car we're looking at now, the 999, almost a lap down. That was on its out lap. Marcus Pommer going to wind it up. Maybe the track will be clear for him at the end, but he's only just in front of the driver who's going on a 2nd fastest lap, flying lap. No longer on the top. He's been toppled because Shay Davis has put the Craft Bamboo 911 Porsche to the top. This is a change in form. Porsches haven't really been on song at Sepang nor at the Chang International Circuit at Buriram in Thailand. Looks as though they're suddenly going to step up to the plate. So Edoardo Liberati, 2nd fastest at the moment. He's at that time of 2:03.299. It's no longer fastest. 2:03.246 Aussie racer Shay Davis in the 911 Porsche. Handling still looking a little awry, but if you're slightly wrong at a hairpin, it doesn't matter. If you're slightly wrong on the faster corners, that's where it can really hurt. At the moment, GT4 provisional pole in the hands of a driver new to the championship, new to this style of racing, Ryuichiro Otsuka. He was on the race programme at this very meeting last year, driving in Formula 3. But he's put the 666 Group M Racing Mercedes on pole provisionally, very early in the session though, for the Group M Racing team in GT4. So it's Davis, Liberati, Thong, Young. So that's Young. So we've got first and fourth for the Craft Racing Porsches. Now BMW Team Studi, Japanese team, running a full season campaign with its BMW M4s and looking increasingly handy. A good result is just around the corner of that, I'm sure. Number 3 Audi down at the moment in 11th position, but Martin Rump looks like he's going to move to the top of the charts. Marcus Pommer has now gone top, 202.897. Dennis Lind, 202.6 goes top, then 202.2 from Rump. I'm glad I picked that one out. So the number 3 Audi, Absolute Racing, he's sharing that with Frankie Chen Kung Fu. He goes to the top of the charts, keeping an eye. It's still Otsuka on top in the GT4s. 202.267. Martin Rump, that is the time to beat. Number 3 Audi. Sitting ahead of the 19 Lamborghini. Going very well in the hands of Danish racer Dennis Lind. Marcus Pommer, 999. He was almost a lap down on the others, so he's put his first flying lap in. He's third fastest. Could be more to come. Will there be traffic? There is 888. That dropped Alexander Matchell down to 12th place. 888 Mercedes, the car tucked in behind though, is one of the quicker ones. 991, it was fleetingly 911 in the hands of Davis, the 991 car. There is the 991 car trying to pick its way up the order, and that should be Aidan Reed at the wheel at the moment. Looking for changes, don't look as they're coming from Martin Rump. Maybe the tyres already starting to go away. Already halfway through this qualifying session. The GT4, it's still Otsuka. Fastest of all, still Martin Rump. Fastest of all, the 991 car, Aidan Reed. 10th fastest. But good to see Craft Bamboo Racing finding some form. Good to see the Porsches in the mix. So at the moment it's Audi from Lamborghini, from Mercedes, and then Ferrari. Fantastic little run there from Leo Yi Hong Lee, fourth fastest, then the second of the Lamborghinis. Yamaguchi in 5th place, Shea Davis 6th for Porsche. So 5 manufacturers in the top 6. That is competitive. Covered by just a whisker under a second. Not a great deal the teams can do with their drivers in this quick fast session other than say make sure you have space around you, don't get tripped up by another driver. Liberati was first out of the pits. That's not him, that's the sister KCMG Nissan. He's only 7th at the moment. He set that fastest lap. It's been toppled. There's the car, top of the pile, in the pits at the moment. Martin Rump, still time to go back out. Traditionally just checking the tyre pressures. Make sure he'll have the balance when he goes back out onto the circuit. In fact, he's not going to go back out onto the circuit because he's climbed out of the car. Maybe he feels that is enough. Provisionally exactly a third of a second ahead of the Dennis Lind Lamborghini. 45 KCMG Audi, which they enter alongside their Nissans. That has been the go-to car and driver combination in the GT3 AM class. It's won the class 4 times out of 4 so far this season. Slight lull with a couple of the fastest runners in the pits. The top 2 cars in the pits. Marcus Pommer still out there in that 999 Mercedes. This last lap was a slow one, making space in traffic. The drivers do this quite a lot. Out they go. Fast lap, cooling down lap, another fast lap. Dennis Lind climbing out there. It's the car that's second fastest. It's funny how many drivers, they don't have a backward look. Out of the car, walk away, helmet off, have a glass of water. who is moving on the charts at the moment. 77 Mercedes, yes, that's Craft Bamboo Racing Team, but they've changed their Porsche Cayman used thus far this season because it seems the AMG Mercedes is a mighty tool in the GT4 class. So last year's GT4 champions, Frank Hugh and Jean-Marc Merlin, have decided they're going to give a Mercedes a try, and they were fastest in class this morning. This is the 666 car that's won 3 of the 4 GT4 encounters so far. Maybe after the stress of racing it in all the heat of Thailand on his own, Reinhold Renger has brought in a teammate this weekend, Ryuichiro Otsuka. He's the driver who's been out on the circuit, and at the moment Otsuka is fastest of all. He's moved to the top of the charts. So the Japanese Formula 3 racer last year showing very great deal of promise for the Group M racing team. Number 7 Audi, Andrew Kim. Looks like they're both on an out lap because they're driving rather slowly, along with the 999 Mercedes and Marcus Pommer. That's third fastest. Andrew Kim down in 14th. Indigo Racing Mercedes looks fantastic. Ju-Won Seo, he's midway down the GT3 grid, 13th out of the 23 runners. Again, just checking things out. Will he go out for a final lap? I don't think he will. Looks like he's got the body language of someone parked in the pits. 1.8 seconds off the ultimate pace. Porsche Caymans 17 and 11. 17 is third slowest at the moment. Welcome on board George Chu this weekend. 11 a couple of places further up. 11 with Brian Lee, racer from Taipei, and TTR Team Sard. Great levels of preparation on these cars. 2 minutes to go in GT4. It's the 666 Mercedes. Mistake from the 17, going wide out of 1 into turn 2. But for the 17 car, sorry, the number 11 car doesn't really want to be held up. It's the quicker of the two, and this lap is going to be completely compromised because by the time they got to the S's, he had a rival in his way. 2 minutes, 2.267 seconds. The car we're looking at there, the 999 Mercedes, is done at 202.897 seconds, 6/10 of a second out. Marcus Pommer needs a clear stretch of track with which to go out and play. It'll be the next lap, not this lap, in which he has to pick up the pace. So he's accelerating hard onto the downhill start-finish straight. This is going to be a key lap for Pommer. Is he going to be the 5th different driver to take pole this season? So far, 2 of his Group M Mercedes colleagues have done so. Patrick Niederhauser and Maximilian Buch in the 2 events last time out in Thailand at the Chang International Circuit. But I tell you what, a pole position around Suzuka is even more important. Not because it's particularly hard to overtake, it's not necessarily easy, it's just the accolade of this really, really tricky circuit. A great circuit, a world-leading circuit. Where are the movements coming from? What a driver would really, really want after the heavy rain last night is to just start their final lap, their final flying lap, as the checkered flag is being prepared to be thrown. Then they will have the track at its sweetest conditions so far this morning. More and more rubber is being laid down by these cars, giving the drivers that extra bit, a bite of grip, and that could just produce another fraction, a blink, a whisker, a flicker of a second. And Shea Davis, he wound it up in the 911, up to 4th fastest. So it's Audi, from Lamborghini, from Mercedes, from Porsche, from Ferrari, and then the first repeat manufacturer, Lamborghini, the 2nd and the 6th as well. Several drivers, including the GT4 McLaren from Clearwater Racing. There it is, number 12, coming into the pits. Their session is over. The checkered flag can be thrown in 2 seconds' time, but is anyone going to depose Martin Rump from the top of the time charts? We saw climb out of the car. Likewise, Dennis Lind. Looks as though everybody is parking up. But that late run from Shea Davis, very, very good lap indeed for Craft Bamboo Racing. 4th fastest. Top in GT4 with practically everyone in the pits. In fact, the only person really out there is Ken Urata, who moved up last time out to penultimate position on the grid. He won't be too pleased with that. And yeah, no late improvements. So 15 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. And it's the number 3 Audi from Absolute Racing. Martin Rump has taken the first pole position of the weekend, and in GT4 it goes to, on his debut in the championship, Ryuichiro Otsuka, the Group M Racing Mercedes GT4. So there's the checkered flag. Great manufacturer variety at the very top, but right now the teams are focusing on getting their second driver ready to go out in qualifying 2 that starts at 10:20. So everyone very well behaved in that session. Lots of changing at the top, but it's Martin Rump who takes the accolade of being fastest this morning, and the Estonian racer will be very pleased with that. And in fact, his driver pairing has been with Frankie Chen Kong Fu has been super consistent in a championship as tight as this. 8th, 4th, 3rd and 5th on circuits that can provide plenty of incident. Consistency has really put them very well placed in the championship. But I, for one, am delighted. I expected the Lamborghinis to follow their form from last year. They're at the sharp end of the grid too, but great to see one of the Craft Bamboo Racing cars 4th fastest. A really good run from Shay Davis. The sister car, Aidan Reed, just outside the top 10, halfway down the GT3 field, but it's great to have a shuffling of the pack. And how would you not when you come to a circuit so different from Sepang, which in turn is so different from Chang International Circuit. Next time out, they've got Fuji Speedway in 3 weekends' time. We'll see how the pot is stirred for that. But right now, the Absolute Racing crew, consistency has been their format, but great speed shown this morning by Estonian racer Martin Rump. Top of the charts by exactly 1/3 of a second. The top 1 second covers the top 6 cars, and just outside that, 7th fastest Eduardo Liberati, a driver who was fastest of all this morning. So it shows that Nissan is in the mix. 6 makes of car in the top 7, and Aditya Patel was next up. So before we get to qualifying number 2, let's look back at the highlights of that first of the 2 qualifying sessions here at Suzuka Circuit. Drivers were keen to get out this morning for the first of the 2 qualifying sessions. First sight for many of the Craft Bamboo Mercedes now that's running in GT4. Mixing in the line with the GT3 Chargers. 23 cars in the GT3 class, 8 here in GT4 to bring us our best starting tally, 31 cars of the season so far. Some teams kept it cool, but it was Eduardo Liberati who led out in one of the 2 KCMG Nissans, and behind already the FFF Racing Lamborghinis were jockeying for position with Dennis Lind in the 19 car. Very clear, keen not to have his laps interrupted, certainly for Liberati, who set a very quick time early on. Things were looking very good indeed. He had the clear track and he really made it stick. He put in 1 very quick lap, but it was the second very good lap from the number 3 Audi that put Martin Rump to the top of the time charts for Absolute Racing. Would he stay there? But it was a very, very tidy lap indeed. There it is, through almost the slowest point on the track, the Casio Triangle, and then that was him coming in. Had he done enough, he'd have to wait and see, but luckily a lot of his rivals stayed out there but did not improve. The 666 Mercedes came good with a new driver on board this weekend, Ryuichiro Otsuka, young Japanese driver, and he started setting the pace in the GT4 class. But right at the end, despite the best of the challenges for the Mercedes, it was the number 3 Lamborghini that was fastest. So that was qualifying session number 1. Getting ready in about 7 minutes time for the second of the qualifying sessions. And if you're new to Blancpain GT Series, it's a 2-driver, 1-race format in the Asian Series, much as it is in the Sprint Series in Europe. But you have 2 drivers per car. Qualifying driver number 2 gets in for the second qualifying session. We now know the grid for race 1, that's this afternoon's race, but for race 2, qualifying starts in a few minutes time, and the grid will be set by driver number 2. So in this case, Frankie Chen Kong Fu, who will take over the car that's just claimed pole for this afternoon's race in the hands of Martin Rump. Marshall's fantastic here, always out looking for any blemish, any bit of dirt or gravel out on the circuit, and simply sweeping it clear. Such a difficult circuit, the Suzuka circuit. So many opportunities to just get a little bit wrong, but that is the delight of the challenge. So the timing screen turns all blue, which means all the driver names have been removed, ready for the next session, which starts in 5 minutes' time. How many circuits are overlooked by a massive Ferris wheel? The most famous, of course, here, the Singapore Grand Prix circuit, also has a great way to watch the action. And Le Mans, over the years, the classic 24-hour race, used to have a great big wheel. But this permanent facility, seen from miles around, such a landmark. For people who haven't visited Suzuka, just go through the tunnel under the circuit and you come out the other side into a full-on amusement park. It's like a parallel universe. But let's look at the cars at pit exit here, ready for the second 15-minute qualifying session. The car that's taken pole for race one from Absolute Racing, right at the front of the queue. One of the sister cars, in fact both the sister cars. There are three cars, Audi R8 LMSs entered by Absolute Racing. First, second and third, very, very keen to get out onto the circuit. Frankie Chen Kung Fu at the front. He seems quite a cool character. He's not wafting his doors to try and get a bit of cool air. It's hot and humid here at Suzuka. Those used to watching this fantastic circuit when the Japanese Grand Prix comes to town, end of September, start of October, are more used to rather cooler conditions. But coming here in the summer, it's not just the heat, it's the humidity. This number 23 car, the Nissan, one of two Nissans from KCMG, starting to go increasingly well. The 23 car, Eduardo Liberati started it. Now German racer Florian Strauss will take over for this second 15-minute qualifying session. There's the Australian Lamborghini car 51 from AMAC Motorsport. William, but better known as Ben Porter, has taken that over from Andrew McPherson. And behind, the ARN Racing Ferrari, a full season entry from the Japanese team. New driver lineup this weekend because regular drivers are competing in the Super GT series. So it's not Hiroaki Nagai, but Hideki Nagai. He's had his stint, and it's now Shinji Takei who will take that number 27 entry back out onto the circuit. Sorry, ARN Racing is not 27, it's number 8. 27 is one of the two Hub Auto Corsa Ferraris that goes out to play. But if I had to put my money on anyone taking pole position, it would be this man, Raffaele Marciello. His teammate Alexander Matschel, less experienced, but in a GT3 car on any circuit anywhere in the world, not only is Raffaele Marciello super fast, but he is such a racer. But it must be said, the best place of the Mercedes in session number one, qualifying session number one for this afternoon race, only third quickest. And that's the 999 sister car, driven by Marcus Pommer. But now Raffaele Marciello, he missed the last race because he was competing in the Nürburgring 24 hours. Oh, he does like a 24-hour race. And no doubt Raffaele will be looking forward to the Spa 24 hours coming up very soon. More than 60 cars will go out to play in that. Lights still red at pit exit, 2 minutes to go. But for those liking their endurance racing, the Suzuka 10 hours is coming up at the end of August, and quite a few of the runners in this are going to be playing in that, so this is great experience for them, learning these cars on the Pirelli rubber that they'll be using for the 10 hours. Opportunity to get some more experience, more setup advantages here at Suzuka, ready for that big race around the Intercontinental GT Challenge. But right now it's all focused on what's happening at this round 3 of the Blancpain GT Series Asia. We've had qualifying session number 1. The number 3 Audi is on pole. We're waiting for the second qualifying session coming up in a minute and a half. Great looking car, the McLaren running in the GT4 class. That's number 12. Richard Wees handed that over to Daniel Au now for the second session in the Clearwater Racing McLaren. Looks absolutely great at a standstill. Let's hope the time on the stopwatch makes it look good on the time charts as well. Each driver must do a minimum of 2 flying laps. Absolute Racing have nailed their colours to the mast. They've got their 3 cars at pit exit, ready to get the maximum amount of track time. 1 minute until the session will start, and then 15 minutes will go by in just a flash. KCMG have decided to keep their cars in a little bit of the shade, but of course the sun is swinging round, and shade will become greater in the pit lane in the afternoon. But right now it's about keeping the cars cool, the drivers cool. But when they get out onto the circuit, and in 30 seconds the session will start, that light will go green. It's about getting heat into the car, into the tyres. There's plenty of heat inside the cockpit, but they want to get the heat in the tyres. You'll see them weave around on the flying lap, but once they get to the Casio Triangle, the penultimate corner, they will start to get serious, because it will be the fastest exit they can make to swing through the final corner and then down the sloping start-finish straight to set the first of what they hope will be 2 fantastic flying laps. Let's go green. In 2 seconds, so here we go. Let's hope they bang. Off we go, got a little ahead of ourselves there, but the Absolute Racing Audi's coming out. Driver number 37 car will be Josh Burden. He claimed a pole in the opening meeting of the year at Sepang. Drivers spacing each other. What we had in that first session was a team and a manufacturer hasn't shown great form. There are 2 of its cars, the Porsches of Craft Bamboo Racing, starting to find their sweet spot. Audi traditionally very strong everywhere. Lamborghinis seem to really, really like their way around the twists and turns, the rises and falls of the Suzuka circuit. So they were right in the mix, but good to see so many manufacturers at the sharp end. 6 different manufacturers in the top 7. Fastest times in qualifying session number 1. Will we have the same mix? Don't forget, Raffaele Marciello will be out there in the hunt in that number 888 Mercedes. Has yet to leave the pit lane, so he's playing it cool. Number 3 though, Frankie Chen Kung Fu, Chinese racer, racing all around the world, racing the World Endurance Championship, and really loves having these shorter races in his mix as well. And Absolute Racing really just looking, their level of presentation absolutely fantastic. Wonderful sweep of corners after the hairpin. Only now starting the turn into the long, long, long corner known as Spoon. Shaped like a spoon, you see. But the key is the exit. Over the curb, but only a little bit. That's a very good exit, but when he's pushing on in his flying lap, might push more, because the long straight that follows, the long crested straight, there you can see, over the crest, past effectively the Nationals, a little national set of pits tucked away up there as well. Past those, through 130R he goes. A wonderful sweep on this most brilliant old school circuit. Into Casio triangle, keep it neat, now accelerate. Hope there's enough grip to go around, not too much understeer through the wonderful sweep. Not being timed yet, but it's all about maximum acceleration. Cross the start finish line any second. Now green flags waving, on he goes. What a gap back to the car in second place. Number 37, his teammate Josh Burden has given the biggest gap imaginable. Won't interrupt Josh, and it certainly won't interrupt Frankie Chen Kung Fu. It's as though he's going out on a private test session. Hopefully the cars that were late out of the pits won't get into his path, but what you don't want in this quickfire qualifying session is for drivers to trip over each other. Don't forget, we've got the mixture. We've got 8 GT4 cars. They're not as quick as the GT3s, but they largely try and get the GT3 runners out first so they can find their own space out on the circuit. There is Josh Burden, number 37. He was second out of the pits. He's built himself loads of space in front because he's let the sister car, number 3, pull clear. And number 7, Anthony Fong, is third in the row of cars at the moment. So the Absolute Racing Audis still first, second and third on the track. But in terms of who's going to be where on the time charts, no guarantee they'll be first, second and third when they complete a flying lap to put some times on the board. But in the early stage of this lap, it's Frankie Chen Kung Fu is fastest of all. But I have a feeling that could be bettered. Number 7, Adderley Fong. It's a real case around this circuit of just keeping a little bit in hand. It's so easy to make a mistake, and you can see Adderley Fong not getting the handling he wanted there, the front of the car washing across the circuit, means he couldn't put the power down as soon as he wanted. So slight compromise. This is a flying lap. The first middle sector, well, it's fastest to Frankie Chen Kung Fu at the moment, but he's the only one to have completed it. But then Josh Bird in the second car has gone half a second quicker in the middle sector of the circuit. Then we saw that very slight mistake from Adderley Fong, but that's a really good middle sector from number 37, who's backed right off in the Casio triangle. That won't help the car behind him. So the first flying lap will be completed any second. It's the car at the back of the grouping there. He looks as though he's backed off a bit. So fastest 204.1. That will be bettered. Not by the Audis in behind. It's going to be a rival manufacturer, I think, that will go to the top of the pile. This weekend, Craft Bamboo Racing have changed from Porsche Cayman to Mercedes AMG to run alongside their Porsches in the GT3 class. In GT4, where they're running the Mercedes. Here it is, number 77. And that's in the hand of a pairing that races on from last year. Jean-Marc Merlin, the French racer, shares with Frank Hugh, and Frank was going pretty well this morning. Nice, tiny braking. Tim Slade, Nick Foster, 2 Australian racers, 2 Ferrari racers, Hub Auto Corsa, they are first and second. Very quick times, separated by a mere 8/1000ths of a second. How close do you like it? Then Adderley Fong is best the rest. So effectively, I think we saw those Absolute Racing Ferraris backing out at the end of their first flying lap. deciding to do it next time around. Maybe the team's told them your tyres are sweeter on the second lap. The heat is more effective in the rubber. Top in GT4, well, in fact, none of the runners have set a flying lap as yet, but that will change any second now. I think Gilles Vanelay will be first around. The team iRace win Mercedes. We now have 3 Mercedes AMGs in the GT4 class, and they do look so very, very well balanced indeed. 666 being thrown around by its regular occupant, Reinhold Renger. He set the first flying lap. He's top in GT4. He's 15th fastest overall. That's not bad in a field with 23 GT3 runners. That will change. Unfortunately, he will slide down, but what he's shown, he's put a time in very well done very early on. So just remember the time, 2:02.332 seconds by Tim Slade, who's shown great flashes of speed, showing with Maurice Chen this year. Then Marcello went top, and immediately his Group M Mercedes was bettered by teammate Patrick Niederhauser. So 999 from 888, and then teammate 666. We're looking at it here. That runs in GT4. That's top of the GT4 class. So it's a clean sweep as it stands. The 2 Group M Mercedes ahead of the 2 Hub Auto Corsa Ferraris. Where is the charge of the Audis? Where, indeed, is the charge of the Lamborghinis? So strong this morning, but Group M Racing, they know when to peak. The 999 car, this car, Swiss Racer Patrick Niederhauser, just having such a great season. He's the only driver to have 2 wins so far in Blancpain Series Asia across the 4 races held, first at Sepang and then at the Chang International Circuit at Buriram. Marcus Pommer put this car 3rd fastest for this afternoon's race. Will it be starting on pole position for tomorrow's race? The race tomorrow morning, who knows what the track conditions will be like, but the best thing is put your car on pole. At the moment, Patrick Niederhauser has done that, but the blue flashes on the side of the 888 car, that is Raffaele Marcello. He's pushing very hard to try and respond. But at the moment, Niederhauser's having a better second flying lap. We're talking a few hundredths of a second. Little bit of traffic, GT4 runners coming out, possibly just getting into the path, but it's a multi-class series, you have to expect it. Marco Merpelli, I'm just saying the name, he's just coming to the background of that shot, 63, going down to 130R, looks though he could be going top. At the moment he's down in 13th place, the 27 Ferrari, Nick Foster at the wheel, 4th fastest, doesn't really want to be in the pit lane. Just under 7 minutes remaining. Here is the 63 car, Marco Merpelli. Great pace this morning for the FFF Racing team. What will this lap hold? The target time, Patrick Niederhauser's just improved in 2:02.005. Merpelli goes 5th, 2:02.434. This is more like it. It's Niederhauser from Marcello, the 2 Mercedes, then the 2 Ferraris, Tim Slade, Nick Foster, then the Lamborghinis from FFF Racing team, Merpelli and Kodrich, 5th and 6th. They're going in, and then 2 Absolute Racing Audis, so 4 pairs of cars. Alex Jung then 9th and 10th place. Frankie Cheng in the 3rd of the Absolute Racing Audis. So just remember, it's Mercedes from Ferrari, from Lamborghini, and then come the Audis. Where are the Porsches that showed well this morning? Darrell O'Young is down in 15th place. And still no representative time. No, in fact, in 19th place, Sandy Stuvik. That was his outlap. Tim Slade, just saw him in shot, just set a very, very good, in fact, the fastest first sector of the lap. The lap always split into 3 timing sectors. Here's the ARN Racing Ferrari, not on such good form this weekend because it has a new driver lineup. They're down in 18th of the 23 cars in GT3. Looking down, who's top in GT4? It's car number 81, so it's one of the 2 BMW Team Studi M4s, Sunaka Jukukchu. That's toppled this car, the 66 car. That's only 2nd fastest in the hand of a driver who's won all 3 of the 4 races so far, Reinhold Renger. 5 and a bit minutes remaining. Tim Slade completes that lap, he goes top, 2:01.827 in the 28 Ferrari. Up through the Essence he goes. Car Guy Racing. Waiting to see how they will go. Kei Cozzolino, star here last year. He's hopped on board this weekend as Car Guy come out to play on home turf. Takeshi Kimura in the first part of the race. First part of qualifying, but it's a Pro-Am lineup, and very much the pro is Kei Cozzolino. Half Italian, half Japanese, born in Japan, knows the circuit like the back of his hand, and there is no substitute for experience at Suzuka. fastest of all, a Ferrari. Great to see. We didn't have so many Ferraris last year. Now it's starting to pick up. Always popular anywhere on the planet in any form of GT racing. Fastest first sector of anyone, middle sector backed off completely. Tim Slade will be probably coming in. He thinks he's done enough, but it's only 0.2 of a second over the Mercedes, the faster of the Mercedes, the 999 one. Oh, Patrick Niederhauser, Raffaele Marcello, third at the moment, but they're both in the pits. Will they go out again? Will second and third be enough for them? But pride's at stake. Reinhold Renger has just shown that pride. He's just gone to the top in GT4. So it's the 666 Mercedes at the top of the pile, the BMW number 81 in second in GT4, and another Mercedes, Gilles Vannelet, the Team iRace.win. He's third fastest. That's car number 72. But this one's 666 on top, but only by 19 one-thousandths of a second, so it could easily swing the other way. Most of the GT3 runners, however, of the top 10 have decided enough is enough. They've gone back into the pits, saving their rubber. Rubber is absolutely key here. Lights are flashing. Tyres being warmed up. The 27 Ferrari tucked in behind the GT4 class setter. Nick Foster was very early. We saw him in the pits. His session wasn't over though. He wanted to have things changed on the car. He's fourth fastest, but he's on his out lap. Most of his rivals are sitting outside on the pit apron. This is a chance for a Ferrari 1-2. Will it happen? The 82 BMW from Team Studios, season-long regular 390. Lamborghini tucked in behind is not. Naoki Yokomizo is down in 16th place, but it'd be great to see if the Success Racing Lamborghini, one of 3 new entries from Japan in the GT3 class, can move his way up the order. Here's a driver who has that very express intent. 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Almost all of his rivals in the pit garage, which not only means they can't challenge him, but they can't get in his way out on the circuit. Was this a masterstroke from Hub Auto Corsa? Leave 28 Tim Slade out there to gain more experience, to set the fastest time, which he has, by 0.177 of a second. But the car that's now slipped to 4th place is out there on a charge. Nick Foster at the wheel. It's the 27 Ferrari sweeping around the lap, through the Degner 1, through Degner 2, over the curb a little bit, just about held it together, up to the hairpin he goes, nobody in front. Fastest first sector of anyone. This is a potential pole lap. Has this been a masterstroke? I think it could have been. Is there anyone in front of them? I don't think there is. That is why it could be the masterstroke. Indigo Racing still out on the circuit, the 97 car. Midway down the order in GT3, 11th fastest Rolf Bruins, but this is the car we want to watch, we need to watch. Waiting for the completion of the second of the sectors, coming now as he goes out of Spoon. Tidy exit, kicks up a bit of dust over the curbing. How good was his middle sector? Needs it to be about a 45-second time split. Just waiting for that to come up onto the clock. Never watch a clock. 44.714, that's his fastest. He's definitely going to improve on his 2:02.3 minute lap. 2 minutes, 2.34 seconds. His best lap through the Casio Triangle. That's the penultimate corner. Here is the final corner. Target time, 2:01.827 seconds to beat. That's set by his teammate, Tim Slade. Will Nick Foster go to the top? It's looking very good. Yes, he does. 2:01.504. A third of a second quickest. 0.322 if you want to be a pedant. But fastest in the first and second. That was a really good lap, beautifully picked up. Nick Foster timed that really well indeed. So a Ferrari 1-2, how about that? Foster from Slade, both from the Hub Auto Corsa Racing team. Looks as though pole in GT4 is going to remain in the hands of Reinhold Renger. There he is, bringing it into Parc Fermé. The clock has nearly ticked to the end of its 15 minutes of the second qualifying session. It's 2 Ferraris from 2 Mercedes, from 2 Lamborghinis, then an Audi, and then Alexander Imperatori on his seasonal debut puts the number 18 KCMG up into 8th position. Josh Burden is 9th, and Kay Cozzolino, the Car Guy Racing Lamborghini, as the clock has beaten to the end of its stint, completes the top 10. So a real mixture of cars, but Ferrari coming good. Lamborghini slipping back a little bit to 5th and 6th, but those Mercedes so strong absolutely everywhere in 3rd and 4th. Was the late improvement in GT4 GT4? Yes, there was, because Jakuchu, right at the end, has just taken the GT4 pole. How about that? Car number 81 stayed out late, and it's deposed Reinhold Renger. We talked to Renger, I talked to Renger, coming in with the pole position, but the 81 BMW, not that one, the sister car that's probably just climbing up through the S's on its cool-down lap, takes that pole. So hats off indeed to Suzuka Jakuchu. That is really promising. Of course, experience on the track, both from the team and the drivers, really, really helps. But those BMWs have been getting stronger and stronger. They've had little flashes of misfortune that's cost them a really top result, but they've just shown they can take the battle in GT4 to the Mercedes. That is really good indeed. But let's move from good to fantastic. That was an absolutely wonderful lap there. Left it late, but Nick Foster took that pole position overall. There's our GT4 pole setter, bringing the 81 M4 home. So the tactic wasn't good to go out right at the start of the session. It was better to wait for the clearer track. You can't always guarantee it, but for Suzuka Jakuchu, that worked very nicely, taking pole in his class by just over a tenth of a second. But the gold standard has been the Mercedes with gold on the flanks, but the 666 Mercedes only second fastest here. That's for tomorrow's race. Of course, our race, the first of the two races here at Suzuka, will start this afternoon at 2:20 local time in Japan. So wherever you're going to be watching from in the world, make sure you don't miss that. Any chance to watch these cars, any cars around the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit, is one that shouldn't be missed. But with 31 cars coming out to play, it's going to be a fantastic race. We have a lot of Japanese drivers, 18 in all out of the split of 62 runners, and circuit experience could really give them a very big advantage altogether when we look at the race. So, as the pole sitter for GT4 brings it rather more slowly through the spoon curve, the checkered flag has long since flown. Almost all the cars now back in the pit lane, or in fact in Parc Fermé for a lot of them. That is our quickfire qualifying. We have the grid for this afternoon's race. We have the grid now for tomorrow's race. And it's hats off to the Hub Auto Corsa team, who took first and second, with Nick Foster moving ahead of Tim Slade. What a session they had here. They can now have time for lunch and think and look ahead to the races. So let's look back at the highlights of qualifying session number 2. Nice and clean session there. No spins that we saw, but really it was a masterclass how not just to get your cars balanced by the Hub Auto Corsa team, but how to put them out when the track was clear. Let's take a look at the start of qualifying session number 2 here at Suzuka Circuit. It was the 3 Absolute Racing Audis that lined up at pit exit, ready to go out and make the most of a clear track. The Group M Racing Mercedes and the Hub Auto Ferraris taking their time and staying as cool as they can on a hot, humid day at Suzuka, just waiting for the field to go out. And there were those 3 Audis at the front of the queue from Absolute Racing, led out by Frankie Chen Kung Fu in the number 3 car. He set the early pace, but for some reason they decided to set their third flying lap as their better one. They had a cool down lap, then went for it again, and it didn't really work. The number 3 car in fact ended up only 12th fastest at the end of the session. So I think it was a case of trying to get the right heat, the right pressure in the tyres, but certainly no excuses from Frankie Cheng. He had the clear circuit. Josh Burden in 37 also had a wonderful stretch of this most brilliant black top here to go and play, but he too didn't end up at the very sharp end of the field. Ended up down in 9th, while the sister car, number 7, placed rather better. Adelie Fong ending up with position 7 for the number 7 Audi from Absolute Racing. Craft Bamboo Racing in the mix this weekend in GT4 with a Mercedes, but behind it was a 666 Mercedes GT4 of Reinhold Renger that looked as though right till the dying seconds that it had the pole yet again in the GT4 class, but it wasn't to be. We'll come to that later. Jean-Marc Merlin picking his way up the order, ended up 4th in the GT4 class, so good change for them. Reinhold Renger, wonderful flow in this car, really does know it very well indeed. But right now, if anything, he's been slightly compromised. I'd have suggested hanging back a little bit. Wasn't interrupted by the 77 car, but you can see he's the quicker of the two. 999 suddenly came good. Patrick Niederhauser, he took a pole at the Chang International Circuit in round 2 of the championship and was really pressing on for the Group M Racing team. Look how deep he threw the car at the top of the hill after the S's, then through the Degners. Wonderful sweep of track. Teammate Raffaele Marciello back on board, back in harness for this championship, having missed the race at Thailand last time out. He suddenly moved up into second place. It was Niederhauser from Marciello. It was the Mercedes 1 and 2 in the session. But then the Hub Auto Corsa Ferraris went faster and faster. Tim Slade moved to the top of the charts in the number 28, 488, while his teammate Nick Foster was sitting in the pit lane. He came in very early on to have tyre pressures adjusted, but maybe it was also a tactic to make sure that when he went back out onto the circuit, he was going to have a clear track with most of his rivals having completed their session, having finished their running. Certainly the 666 Mercedes fancied its chances, but it was the car behind, the 27 car, Nick Foster. He'd had that little visit to the pits, flashing his lights. Don't worry, it's not in his way, because this is his warm-up lap. But once he got racing, once he got out there on the circuit for this final flyer, he made it count. Fastest first sector of anyone, his fastest middle sector, but then he did the fastest final sector of anyone, and that was enough to put the 27 Ferrari onto pole position. This is for tomorrow's race, Sunday's race at Suzuka. 2 minutes 1.5 seconds put him on pole by just over 0.3 of a second. You can see Nick shaking his head, very happy with life. But another driver really on the move out there, Sunaka Chikuchu. We thought pole in GT4 had gone to Reinhold Renger with a 666 Mercedes, but no, it hadn't. BMW Team Studio, they know the car, they know the track, and right at the end, pole in GT4 went to that 81 BMW. Bring on the racing.
GT4 クラスのトップがスタート実況が出しました81号車の BMW、クラス2番手がカーナンバー666番のグループ M レーシングチームのメルセデス、そして